It's certainly encouraging hearing you speak about Africa's entrepreneurship as something that's really beautiful, because often we're perceived by the rest of the world through Bob Geldof's eyes, and that's the continent who really just needs to be rescued, saved, and fed.
Yeah.
So what do we do as Africans and as African business people to try and bolster that image of a place where really we've got great entrepreneurship? And how do we do that?
I think that there's a sports company that says just do it. I think it's a pretty good adage in terms of, from my perspective, what I've seen in Africa is that, it's really working and partnering with companies like ourselves, but partnering with trusted organisations to help that company to go and take their first steps internationally, and in doing so, I'm sure they'll build a great business. I'll tell you, again, two other great stories, examples of that. I was in Dar es Salaam again, actually about 9 months ago, and working behind the counter as I often do, and a lady came in and she looked a little bit lost and wasn't quite sure what she was doing. So I said, look, I'll try. I'm not sure I'll be able to help you, but I'll try. And she said, well, I'm sending my very first sample internationally. And so we got talking, and she was an SME. And she, to the point about Brand Africa, she'd had a very successful domestic business selling beauty products made from leaves and various other African vegetation. And she branded it very nicely, and she got talking to somebody who introduced her to somebody in New York. They said they'd be interested, so off she went, and she sent her first shipment. She's now shipping there every week, and I think people overseas have this image, to your point, have this image of sort of lions, tigers, giraffes, and other things. So it's quite it's quite a sexy appeal at Brand Africa. So I think there are lots and lots of consumers internationally who are very interested in doing business with Africa, whether it be in the sort of emotional sense or whether it be in the more sort of IQ sense. So and to the point again, and to reiterate, it is so important because as I said, and to your point about Bob Geldof, as I go around Africa, for all its positivity and all its greatness and all its promise, there are a lot of challenges, and I think one of the biggest challenges Africa has is unemployment. And in some markets it's 70%, and in some markets 45%. Here it's 23, 24%. So there are a lot of people who don't work. I was out in Langaban a couple of weeks ago, and there's kids just sitting on the kids, I say, they're youths sitting on the side of the road doing nothing. So there's a lot of people who need jobs, and how do you change that? You got to find them jobs. So in the absence of the high-tech companies coming here en masse and starting to produce tablets or PCs or phones or whatever it may be in a large scale, which I think will happen, but in the absence of them coming in the short term, the growth of the SME segment is really, really important to Africa's future. So yeah, we're really supportive of it.
Finally, what do you say to the SME owner who's kind of toying with the idea of going global, of reaching out beyond our borders? How do you take that step? What's your advice?
As I said, just do it. And actually, to be fair, it's not necessarily for everyone. I think you've got to work out whether that's if you've got a very successful domestic business and you don't necessarily feel that you want to go internationally, I'm sure they're not going to listen to me and suddenly decide to do so. But to many of your listeners and any of your audience who are thinking about doing it, come and talk to us. It's far easier than you may suspect to take your business internationally in today's world. It's far easier to identify customers and identify markets that would sit very well and parallel with the locations you're currently based. Doing business with customers may seem complicated, but working with people like DHL, we can make it far easier than you may think. It's not as expensive as you may think either. And as I said, statistically, it's proven that if you do go internationally, you're likely to be 2 times more successful. So all the pointers would suggest it's a very good thing. I think it's about putting your toe in the water and taking a swim.
So to the business owner who's watching this and wants to keep you to your word, how can they get in contact?
Call me. Give me a buzz. Charles Brewer. I'll give him a number anytime you like. I can leave it with you so you can pass it on.
That's probably the safer thing to do.
That's the safest thing to do. But yeah, just give us a call and we'll happily help out.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You're very welcome.